Before I talk about what actually happened on Raw this week, I wanted to extend my deepest thanks to the WWE for making this an Ultimate Warrior tribute show. It was the right thing to do, and it was kind of a little therapeutic and a little healing in a way. It's kind of one of these things that it was good to see, and it's also kind of tragic and sad to see. Because you think about it, and it's like for so many years, there was so much animosity between Vince McMahon and the WWE and the Ultimate Warrior. And for so many years, both sides battled each other. Both sides harped at each other. Both sides tried to degrade and demean and belittle the other and fight with each other and establish their own superiority. That you ever wondered whether or not the Ultimate Warrior and what he accomplished and what he did was ever truly going to get its just desserts and was ever going to truly get the recognition that it deserved. Well, it's better late than never, and unlike in the case of the Macho Man Randy Savage, for a lot of us older wrestling fans, we got that chance to say thank you. We got that chance in a way to say we appreciate it, goodbye. With WrestleMania 30 and the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. I can't put into words how happy I was to see the Ultimate Warrior get this spotlight and get this moment that he did so richly deserve. And, in some ways, as I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and I see all the superstars out there on the ramp, and there's Triple H, somebody who has reasons on his own to hold a grudge against the Ultimate Warrior, but doesn't anymore. And I see somebody like a Vince McMahon, somebody who, above all else, if anybody was to have any heat or animosity, or any grudges with an Ultimate Warrior, it would be him. But to not only see him out there, but to see him be so deeply moved by the loss of the Ultimate Warrior, and to see both Triple H and Vince McMahon and the entire WWE organization really work to repair those burnt bridges with the Ultimate Warrior. And the Ultimate Warrior, in turn, to work to repair those burnt bridges with the WWE, to mend those fences, to sit there and say, hey, maybe we'll never forget, but it's time to forgive and it's time to move on, because you shouldn't carry these grudges forever and you shouldn't take them with you to the grave. And I think it's a good life lesson for a lot of us. You could sit there and have grudges with people, you could sit there and hate certain things, but at some point in time, when does it become a time to forgive? When does it become time to grow from it, mature from it, to grow up and to move on? And if anything, what happened here with Vince McMahon and the Ultimate Warrior, it gives you that example of, it's better late than never, but it's better to make sure you do it. And I sit there and I think about the Ultimate Warrior and his untimely passing last week at the age of 54. And it really moved me very deeply. And it was, like I said again, I was so pleased to see that the WWE is bending over backwards to go out of their way to take care of Warrior's family, his wife and his two lovely daughters, to sit there and to go out of their way to rectify a lot of previous wrongs done over many years, to honor his memory, to honor his career, to honor his legacy, to honor his achievements, and in a lot of ways to honor a lot of his fans. When I found out the Ultimate Warrior had passed last week, it was sad. It was very, very sad. Hit me on a similar level to when I found out the Macho Man, Randy Savage had passed away in May of 2011. When I think about it as a wrestling fan, these are people that meant a lot to me. These are people that helped shape me in certain ways. These are people that helped shape who I still am today. Part of the reason, whether some of you may like it or not, part of the reason that I still watch wrestling and come on here and do videos on YouTube about professional wrestling are because of people like Hulk Hogan, the Macho Man Randy Savage, and the Ultimate Warrior. It's really sad to me in 2014 now that two of those three individuals are no longer with us. And I've sat there over the years and I've heard a lot of people say a lot of things about the Ultimate Warrior, and I've heard a lot of people say a lot of things to try to demean the Ultimate Warrior and belittle the Ultimate Warrior and to take away from his many accomplishments. Here's how I'll choose to remember the Ultimate Warrior. I'll choose to remember a guy that was instant energy, that was nonstop energy, nonstop motion, an explosion of awesomeness, a guy who had a tremendous passion, a guy with a tremendous charisma, a guy with a tremendous ability to connect with the audience, to suck them in, a guy with, when people talk about the it factor in professional wrestling, the Ultimate Warrior had that it factor. I'll think about a guy that paid his dues, that worked his way up from the bottom, from nothing, all the way to the top in less than 5 years. For all the things that people want to say about him, I think about a guy that when he got to the top, by God, he deserved it. I think about a guy in the Ultimate Warrior who dared to be different, who wasn't afraid of it, who seized upon the ability to be different. And by God, he was. And that's what made him special. And that's what made him truly awesome. I think about a guy that, as I started to grow up, as it got to 1990, and, I turned 9 years old, and things are starting to figure out a little differently. Things are starting to change for me a little differently. I'm starting to lose just a little bit of interest overall in professional wrestling. Here comes the Ultimate Warrior, loading the rocket ship with fuel like a supernova, re-injecting me with some new-filled passion and life for professional wrestling. There is only one person that has ever, at any point in time, surpassed, in my mind, a Hulk Hogan of all people, and that was the Ultimate Warrior for about a 2-year stretch. I remember a guy that was awesome. I remember a guy that when I would sit there and watch professional wrestling with my dad, he would sit there and make fun of it and call it fake and call it phony and call it hokey. But by God, what did you freaking know? When Hulk Hogan was on the TV, he watched. When the Macho Man Randy Savage was on TV, he watched. And he sure as hell knows he watches. And yes, you did, Peter. Don't you ever deny it. My dad sure as hell knows that he was watching when the Ultimate Warrior was on. And I think about that too, because it reminds me, when I think of the Ultimate Warrior, of being a kid and watching a pure, more innocent form of professional wrestling or sports entertainment, where I wasn't talking about backstage politics, or I wasn't talking about who's coming or who's going, or who's going to be booked where, or where's the creative direction, or who's going over who. I didn't care about any of that shit. It was all about, this guy's fucking awesome, I want this guy to win because this guy's fucking awesome, and that's it. For all those people in professional wrestling or thinking about getting into professional wrestling, you can learn a lot from the Ultimate Warrior. You can learn how important it is to work your ass off and move your way up the ladder from the very bottom, pay your dues, and make it all the way to the top. You could think about a guy who wasn't afraid to be different. He dared to be different. He embraced the ability to be different. And by God, he took off and he ran with it. He also understood that it was a business. It was a business about making money and taking care of himself and ultimately his family. Something to be respected and to be admired about that. A man who wasn't afraid to stand up for himself and stand up against all people, Vince McMahon in the WWE, which is something that's not to be done very lightly. But Warrior didn't care. Warrior had balls. Not too many people in this world have balls. Like real sets of cojones and huevos. But one person that I will always confidently state had him in great big brass multiples was the Ultimate Warrior. Last week he passed away at the age of 54. And for all the crap that all the people have tried to say about him over the years, I say this. You wish in your 70 or 80 years maybe of life that you will have been able to accomplish 1/100th or 1/1000th of what the Ultimate Warrior did in his 54 years of life. You can only hope and dream to achieve anywhere nearly remotely close to what the Ultimate Warrior was able to do. He's a good role model, if anything, for working hard, having a dream, achieving your dream, and taking care of yourself and your family. There's something admirable about that, not something to be hated on and disrespected. That's what I'll choose to think about when I think of the Ultimate Warrior. I'll think of one of the greatest entrances of all time. One of the most larger-than-life characters the business has ever seen or will ever see. One of the most unique characters in the history of the wrestling business. One of those truly rare, larger-than-life personalities that we could only dream of getting in today's professional wrestling business. I'll think about a man who wrestled Hulk Hogan at the main event of WrestleMania 6 in front of 60+ thousand people at the Sky Dome and made magic and made history. I'll think about an Ultimate Warrior that at WrestleMania 7 did it again to me with his retirement match against the Macho Man Randy Savage. You know, for a guy that a lot of people said, you know, he wasn't a good worker, he wasn't a good wrestler. Well, my God, he had some very memorable feuds. He had some very memorable matches. And it's amazing how many things from the Ultimate Warrior's career we remember still to this day, more than 2 decades after the peak of his run. That means something. At the end of the day, what impact did you leave? What legacy do you leave? What mark did you leave for everybody to remember? The Ultimate Warrior, he left a big mark. And he left a big legacy, and a tough legacy to live up to and follow. I'm very thankful that I was able to appreciate the greatness that was the Ultimate Warrior, and I'm grateful for this platform to be able to come on here and talk about the greatness that was the Ultimate Warrior and rectify a lot of previous wrongs done on him and his character and his performances and his personality and his gimmick over the years. I'm going to miss the Ultimate Warrior, and I'm very thankful that the WWE gave me this opportunity on Raw this week to live vicariously like a kid again and remember and reflect upon some of those great memories and moments throughout the Warrior's career. And I'm very thankful that the Ultimate Warrior was man enough to realize that sometimes it's time to move on, and it's time to let bygones be bygones, and it's time to repair and those bridges and rebuild them. Again, he's not somebody I think that we should look down on. He's somebody that I think truly we should actually look up to, because he set a very good example, especially for a lot of people in professional wrestling. My deepest, deepest sympathies to his wife and his 2 daughters. I hope you understand just how much your husband, your father, meant to me during my lifetime as a professional wrestling fan and millions of others all around the world. And all I've got to say is this, is that I know he loaded that rocket ship with fuel, and he took one last journey to the gods above. And here comes this guy with face paint and tassels knocking on heaven's gate, and there's Macho Man Randy Savage, and they're having a rematch of WrestleMania 7 up in heaven, if there is such a place. By God, I hope there is, and by God, someday if there is, I hope I get to be able to see it, because that is a match that would be worth paying the price of admission to see one more time. Thank you, Ultimate Warrior, for all the great memories and moments you gave me over the span of your career. You are gone, but I promise you, you will never, ever be forgotten. Now let's talk about Raw this week. One thing I've always felt bad about when it comes to the Ultimate Warrior is I never talked nearly enough, I don't think, about just how good of an Intercontinental Champion he was. A 2-time Intercontinental Champion, and by God, a damn good one. And by God, when he carried that belt, by God, it meant something. One of the most underrated Intercontinental Champions of all time, and one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time, bar none. Warrior's 2 IC title reigns are memorable. There are so many people over the years that have had so many Intercontinental Championship reigns that are easily forgettable. So it was kind of cool to see the WWE say, hey, this is an Ultimate Warrior tribute show. He's one of our great Intercontinental Champions ever. Let's have an Intercontinental Championship #1 Contenders Tournament. Start it this week and go with it the next couple of weeks and build towards an IC title match at Extreme Rules. By God, brilliant. What I love about this is the fact that it gives you 4 matches of consequence, and it actually gave you 4 good matches on the show. RVD beating ADR, Cesaro beating Mark Henry, Sheamus beating Jack Swagger, and Wade Barrett beating Dolph Ziggler. 4 matches of consequence, 4 matches that were good for this show, and 4 matches that also build towards another show that ultimately build towards that next pay-per-view or special event. And that's a good thing. And that's why I like these type of tournaments. Do something a little out of the box every once in a while. However, I do want to throw the bullshit flag on people for this. All of a sudden now, this means that the Intercontinental Championship is going to be returned to its former prestige and its former glory? What in the fuck are you smoking? Since when? Newsflash, dumb dicks, and this goes for the people even in the business, like the Jimmy Corderases and the Jim Rosses and all these other people talking about this bullshit. Newsflash, dumb dicks. The number one easiest way to make your Intercontinental Championship seem like a big deal and to make your Intercontinental Champion mean something is to feature him on TV every single fucking week, and to do so in a way that is designed to eventually make the guy into a big star or give him the opportunity to become a big star. See the Ultimate Warrior. See Mr. Perfect. See the Macho Man Randy Savage. You can't sit there and say, oh, this is going to help bring the title back to prestige. If you got a tournament that lasts a couple weeks, you get a pay-per-view match, and then the IC champion, whoever it is after Extreme Rules, appears every other week on television. If he does have a feud, it's a lame-ass feud that revolves around match, and that's it. There's no feud, there's no reason for heat, there's no story, there's no rivalry, there's no nothing. So no, dipshits. This IC tournament doesn't sit there and instantly restore prestige to the Intercontinental Tournament, or Championship, excuse me. A tournament is a good start, but you got to feature your champion on fucking TV every week. You got to feature him in a way that makes him feel like a big star. One thing I will say about The Miz being a great mid-card champion in the WWE, when he was United States champion during his time, you had 3 feuds. You had a feud for Cena, you had a feud for Orton, and then you had a feud with Miz involving the United States Championship. Whether that be with somebody like an MVP or a Kofi Kingston or somebody like a Daniel Bryan. When he had the United States Championship, you didn't just have match. You actually had feud. You actually had story. He was featured every week on television and made it feel like a big deal. Both the belt and the performer. That's how you get the Intercontinental Championship to be restored to its former glory. You create champions that feel like stars, that feel like this is just a stepping stone to the next level to where they could become truly big stars. You don't sit there and have Biggie Langston with the belt over his shoulder after jobbing out to Bray Wyatt in a 6-man tag last week, being only in the Battle Royal and getting eliminated early at WrestleMania 30, not defending his IC strap at all on the show, and he's sitting backstage or watching on television. That doesn't do shit to restore shit to any shit, period. What is it about fucking John Cena where it seems like he tries his best to devalue anybody that he's involved with? And what is it about him that he seems to suck the life out of anything that he ever does that could potentially be even remotely interesting to any adult fan or even a lot of younger fans, frankly? This whole shit this week with John Cena and Bray Wyatt. There's Bray Wyatt doing more great, serious, off-the-wall promo work. And then here's John Cena, where you got to the point where he was torn and he was conflicted. And he was battling within himself at WrestleMania, only to ultimately prevail because that's stupid storytelling that the WWE loves to participate in on a frequent, consistent basis. With a John Felix Anthony Cena, here he is cutting lame-ass, dumb-ass jokes about what Sister Abigail looks like, and what their mom looks like, and what their kids look like, and nobody gives a shit. How are you supposed to sit there and take this guy seriously in a Bray Wyatt when the guy that he's wrestling, a John Cena, apparently isn't taking him seriously at all? And it reminds me of people like an Ultimate Warrior. Wouldn't an Ultimate Warrior been making those type of stupid jokes? No, he'd have been talking about loading the rocket ship with fuel, taking the plane, and sending it into a nosedive, and Bray Wyatt wouldn't know what the fuck to do. He's like, I'm crazy. What's this motherfucker? Even a Hulk Hogan, you sit there and say, Hogan was hokey, Hogan was corny. You're damn right he was sometimes. But I tell you what, he wouldn't have done this type of hot garbage. He would have actually tried to sell the fact that he had obstacles to overcome. He would have actually tried to make this seem like a serious piece of business. And this is where it gets to stupidityville with the freaking John Cena and anything he's involved in. He already went over at WrestleMania 30. Stupid decision. Clearly. So, of course, for some reason, they continue the feud, even though the babyface went over the first chance they had an encounter. There's no more heat. There's no more reason for the rivalry. There's no reason for this shit to continue. And now let me get this straight. He beat Bray Wyatt, who had both Harper and Rowan in his corner at WrestleMania, who got involved at different points of time in the match. And Cena still won. Now, for some reason, we're supposed to care about these two having a fucking steel cage match at Extreme Rules. A steel cage match used to be designed for the babyface to go over. It used to be designed as a way to keep outside interference out and keep the action in the ring. There's no point to this. Cena already fucking beat Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 30. Cena already beat him with Harper and Rowan getting involved in the action. So now, if anything, it would seem to make the freaking heel look ridiculous. It would seem to make the heel look vulnerable. It would seem to make the heel look like he's on the ropes, not a John Cena, which is exactly why a John Cena fucking gets booed everywhere he goes, and a guy like Bray Wyatt will continue to get more and more cheered. It's the stupidity of the WWE to sit there and do everything they can to undercut their villains to the point where they become heroes, and to sit there and strengthen their heroes to ridiculous levels like a John Cena to the point where they become villains. You have a cage match, for whatever reason, when Cena should have no more issue, they should have no more beef, because he's already beaten them. He beat Bray Wyatt 100% clean at WrestleMania 30. Oh, in fact, it wasn't 100% clean because Harper and Rowan both fucking got involved with the action. That couldn't stop John Cena. And now a steel cage? Him and Wyatt one-on-one? I'm supposed to buy this as some good piece of storytelling? No, it's more of the same old typical John Cena WWE bullshit. First off, let me say this. When it comes to Daniel Bryan and him not being on Raw this week, you know, it's actually a good thing to me that the champion not be on TV every single week. It makes it feel a little bit more like a special attraction when that guy actually does appear. Also, the guy was getting fucking married. If you weren't happy that he wasn't there and you were bitching about it, shut the fuck up. Let the guy enjoy a little bit of his personal life. Let the guy get married. Let him go plow some puss. Something that a lot of you that like Daniel Bryan could use a little bit more of in your life. If you're sitting there bitching and moaning about the fact that the guy got a freaking week off to sit there and go get married and go have a honeymoon and go plow some puss and maybe even make some babies with Brie Bella, then you need to truly, seriously get a fucking life. And yes, that is coming from somebody with a wrestling memorabilia in the fucking background with a, apparently, LeBron James-like hairline. I didn't think it was that bad. If I wore a headband, assholes, it wouldn't be all the way up here. That's a LeBron James headline, you dipshits. But if you didn't like that Daniel Bryan wasn't there, tough shit. If you're pissed off about the fact that he wasn't there, again, tough shit. Deal with it. Now, if you're pissed off, however, about the fact that they look to be going towards a Daniel Bryan and Kane feud, which would make him feel like a semi-main event world champion, then piss and moan away. Then bitch away. Because what is the point of making WrestleMania 30 in large part the Daniel Bryan show just to make him feel like a CM Punk type of second-tier WWE World Heavyweight Champion? Now, of course, a lot of you hypocrites, back when CM Punk was doing it, it was fine. When the Schleg Daddy tried to tell you this was stupid, and that was garbage, and it was wrong. Oh, no, 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 it didn't matter what position, but now it matters what position, because you saw what happened with CM Punk, and you see what they're getting ready to do with Daniel Bryan. However, I'm 100% with you. Now, there is storyline reasons for a Daniel Bryan to have a feud with the Kane. There are reasons for that, yes. However, if this is their excuse to sit there and say, well, you're the guy, but you're not going to hit cleanup, we're going to hit you second, or we're going to hit you sixth in the lineup, you know, then fuck the WWE for this shit. What was the point of making WrestleMania 30 the Daniel Bryan show just to sit there and say, well, you know what, you're the champion now, but you're not our top guy? Just stupid. So if you want to bitch about that, go right ahead, because God knows I'm going to join with. On the flip side, the irony is if a Daniel Bryan's not going to be a main eventer right away as a WWE World Heavyweight Champion, it creates opportunities for other individuals to step up into that spot and show what they can do. And of course, I'm referring to the Shield. So it's kind of like one of those double-edged swords. You want to see Daniel Bryan be featured in the main event as a WWE World Heavyweight Champion, but if he's not, and the reason being is because the Shield is, you know what I mean? It's kind of like you're torn a little bit in a way. And especially when you think about it with this. The Shield will feature prominently on this show. They attack Batista and Orton when they have their tag title match or whatever against the Usos. Then they sit there, the Shield are being put in a 3 versus 11 handicap match by Triple H and Stephanie McMahon and the freaking Authority. And then you get the reformation of Evolution. Batista and Orton learn. That you have to play the game a certain way. It's Breakfast Club rules, bitches, and you guys know this. It was great to see them come to their freaking senses. For any of you wondering, yes, I may have popped a little bit of a chubber, and yes, there may have been an explosion in my loincloth at the mere thought of Triple H and Dave Bautista and Randall Keith Orton, fresh off of a late-night breakfast, coming down to the ring to the old Evolution music. And they're going with it. They're going with Evolution versus The Shield at Extreme Rules. They might be building up to Triple H and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. Am I down with that? You goddamn right I am. For so many different reasons. For so many different reasons. What it does is it says that The Shield are such a force to be reckoned with that Triple H can't take care of him himself. A Dave Bautista can't take care of him by himself. A Randall Keith Orton can't take care of him by themselves. Even any combination of the two of them can. These three guys, one of your great factions over the past 20 years in the WWE, these three main eventers, world champions, Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers, have to band together to meet the challenge of The Shield. That instantly, just like that, elevates the profile tremendously of a Dean Ambrose, a Seth Rollins, and in particular a Roman Reigns. It truly, truly does. And again, you know, the WWE's had some good success recently with 6-man tag matches. See, the Shield versus the Wyatt family at Elimination Chamber is just one of many notable examples. You know, and that again could lead to a very entertaining and interesting feud heading into an Extreme Rules pay-per-view and a very entertaining and interesting main event match. Fuck yeah, I'm down with this because this presents so many possibilities. You could launch a Triple H and a Roman Reigns off on their own. You could launch a Seth Rollins or a Dean Ambrose against either Orton or Batista, or you could sit there and have Orton and Batista versus Ambrose and Rollins. You could do all types of different things with this. This is awesome. This is incredible. And I love every minute of it. And the thought of you could sit there and continue to build on that momentum that Roman Reigns in particular has established and been rolling with and been building on to get him to the point of where he had a signature moment at Survivor Series. He had a signature moment at the Royal Rumble. He was part of a signature victory at WrestleMania. Now he can sit there and feud with Evolution, one of your great factions in history, with 3 main eventers, 3 world champions, 3 future WWE Hall of Famers, and then he could potentially go on to SummerSlam and face one of the franchise pieces of the WWE over the past 20 years, the game, the King of Kings, the Cerebral Assassin, God himself, Triple H. Man, it's off to the races with somebody like a Roman Reigns. My disappointment came in the fact that you got freaking Evolution reforming and the Birmingham crowd took a big dump on it. What the fuck is this? This is about ego and politics and awesome. And all the while, the crowd does nothing. They should have been popping for this. They should have been excited for this because this is right with all different types of awesome fucking possibilities. Now, in general, was this show nearly as good as last week's Raw? Oh, hell no. But again, how many Raws are going to be as good as that post-WrestleMania Raw? Was it a good show in the sense that it built plenty towards Extreme Rules? Yes. Did I feel like it was a fitting tribute to the Ultimate Warrior? In some ways, yes. And again, it was an incredibly nice gesture to me by the WWE to see them bend over backwards and go out of their way to rectify so many previous wrongs and sit there and do the right thing and give us the opportunity to remember the Ultimate Warrior the way we want to and the way he should be remembered. So again, that's it for Raw this week. You feel more than welcome down below to share your thoughts on this week's show. Or if you want to, maybe I'd even prefer, just share your favorite memories or moments or matches from the career, the life, and the legacy of the Ultimate Warrior.